Hi, this is Alessio. Hope you're well. With a quick update for you on the Bitcoin situation. We'll take a look at this chart and also this chart here on Bitcoin in a few moments. First of all, the chart, which includes weekend data, as you can see here on TradingView. So the situation is not looking good for Bitcoin, and I'm sure you probably can guess why. Because, as I mentioned to you some weeks ago, it was really important. It was really important for Bitcoin to stay above its 21 weekly moving average. That's the blue line we see here. I said as long as Bitcoin can stay above the 21 weekly, bulls have control. All right. Now it stayed above that for about a couple of weeks, maybe 2 or 3 weeks. But as we can see, about a week or so ago, it went below its 21 weekly. In fact, let me just remove this and you can see right here, that was about a week or so ago, a couple of weeks ago, it actually went below its 21 weekly. And that means, of course, when it does that, as I mentioned before, when it does that, that means the probabilities have changed. It's shifted from bulls to bears. So essentially sellers are still in control, all right? As long as Bitcoin remains below its 21 weekly average, as we have done for the last few weeks, bears or sellers have the edge, they have control. Now, it's not all over for Bitcoin, as I'll show you in a few minutes. This chart actually says something slightly positive. But one more thing to mention here as well is the momentum. The momentum on Bitcoin also remains still bearish, as we can see here on the weekly momentum. Now, as you can see here, the momentum is still negative. It's still increasing to the downside, and it's actually not too far away now. Bitcoin is not that far away from its prior lows of October. So even though this chart, the weekly, the higher time frame chart is looking rather bearish, rather negative, there is a little bit of hope on the daily chart. And specifically here, I'm looking at a chart which excludes weekend data. Okay, so this is a chart on MT4 that I'm looking at, and I know I'm going to get this question again. How do we get MT4 charts? Now, you can try any MT4 chart you like. It's free, of course. You can try the MT4 chart from markets. The link is right there for you. I'll also put the link for you in the description as well. But essentially, this chart shows the price of Bitcoin that excludes weekend data. And it can be useful because we see different kinds of dimensions, different levels. All right. And this is what's interesting about this chart. What's interesting is that, first of all, notice where Bitcoin bounced from in October. Now, I mentioned this before. In October, Bitcoin bounced from the 200 simple moving average there, key level, which also happened to be the 61.8% Fibonacci retracement. But in any case, that was a key level, and we can see Bitcoin managed to successfully bounce off of that level. Now, I say successfully, but of course, so far it's given back most of those gains since that bounce. But in any case, here's what's interesting. What's interesting is that Bitcoin is once again approaching that same level, the 200 simple moving average. We're not too far away. So the question is this: can the 200 simple moving average on this chart play its magic for us one more time? That's going to be interesting. Sometimes it does happen. Sometimes price comes back down again, retests the 200 moving average again, and then bounces again. Now, we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to see some confirmation of that. So what's interesting is, just to recap here, what we're seeing is this. We're seeing Bitcoin coming back down, just testing close to that 200 moving average there, very close to it, as a matter of fact, the green line you see right there. We are also oversold on the RSI, a special setting of RSI that I use. That's 295.5. So that's a period of 295.5 RSI that is oversold. The reason I use this special setting is because it looks at short-term oversold, overbought levels, so it can be useful. So that RSI setting is oversold at the moment. And also, interestingly enough, what's interesting as well is that if we connect the prior highs of Bitcoin, we actually can get a trend line that is just meeting us where that 200 simple moving average is. All right. Now, I should say, drawing trend lines is a bit subjective. Everyone has their own way of drawing their trend lines. I'm sure there are people watching this video who may have a different approach to how they draw their trend lines, but I'm quite happy with that. I'm quite happy with that trend line. And bottom line is, it looks as though Bitcoin is coming back down, just perhaps retesting that downtrend line that we're seeing here. And what's interesting, that downtrend line is meeting us at exactly where that 200 moving average is, and with oversold RSI as well. So number of things coming together. There's also some time resistance coming through on a lower time frame. But the fact is this: if Bitcoin bulls are going to rescue Bitcoin, then it needs to happen very soon, in the next few days. I would say in the next 2 to 3 days. That's it. If Bitcoin fails to bounce off of this level in the next few days, or I'd say probably the next couple of days, then it's going to look very bad for Bitcoin. Because if Bitcoin breaks this support, if Bitcoin falls below this level, this 200 simple moving average and this trend line, if it falls below it in the next few days, which there is a risk that it might do that, we're below the 21 weekly average, so the bears are still in control. The fact is, though, if Bitcoin fails to bounce, if Bitcoin continues to drip any further lower, then guess what, guys? It's not going to be good for Bitcoin, because that could take out the prior lows. So essentially what we're saying in this video is, this is it. This is essentially make or break for Bitcoin, this level. By the way, one more thing I need to mention here is that we're also close to the 8,000 level. 8,000 is psychological support. So we got a number of things here, just to mention. We got a number of support levels coming in this chart. So number one, we got the psychological 8,000 support. The 200 simple moving average, once again coming into play. The trend line, oversold in the RSI. So let's just see if Bitcoin bulls can rescue Bitcoin at this moment. By the way, when I say Bitcoin bulls, I'm talking about the big market players, the big players, the institutions, the major big market participants. Now, just to let you know, I'm not holding my breath. So even though I would like to see a bounce from here, I'm not holding my breath. Essentially, if Bitcoin is going to get rescued, if we're going to see a miracle on Bitcoin, then this is it. This level is now pretty much make or break for Bitcoin. It's just a matter of hurry up and wait and seeing if Bitcoin can somehow see a bounce from this level or not. And can the bounce? And the question is, if there is a bounce, is it going to be sufficient enough to push it back into some kind of a bull market again? That's the big question. All right, guys. So just to let you know, I'm doing a webinar, a very important webinar tomorrow evening. That's Thursday evening, 8 p.m. GMT UK time, which is 3 p.m. Eastern US time. So this is one webinar which is going to be very important this year. So please go ahead and register for this webinar if you haven't already registered. The link is right there for you. And I'll look forward to seeing you guys in the webinar on Thursday. Thanks very much indeed, and bye for now.